Why did the final prophet not rely on visual miracles like those before him? Was it a limitation or a sign that human civilization had reached a new stage of understanding? Every messenger of God who was entrusted with revelation and sent to their people was always given a sign of truth in the form of a miracle. This miracle served as a guarantee that the messenger was truly sent by God and that the message they delivered was not a human invention, but divine revelation. However, these signs of truth were never given in the same form. They were always tailored to the ability of each community to recognize and understand them. In early societies, where human understanding relied primarily on sensory perception, miracles were therefore visual and tangible, directly associated with the messenger himself and easily witnessed. For this reason, we find Abraham, peace be upon him, unharmed by fire; Moses, peace be upon him, whose staff parted the sea; and Jesus, peace be upon him, who, by God's permission, gave life to the dead and shaped a bird from clay. Visual signs of truth from God carry a fundamental limitation. They can only be witnessed while the messenger is still alive. When the messenger passes away, the visual sign also disappears, remaining only as a story passed down to later generations. As a result, future generations can no longer witness the sign directly. They inherit a narrative, not an experience. This makes it increasingly difficult to distinguish divine revelation from human-made teachings, especially when many competing claims arise. In such circumstances, divine guidance needs to be continually reaffirmed. For this reason, messenger after messenger was sent, each accompanied by new signs of truth, to strengthen, clarify, and preserve God's guidance for humanity. On the other hand, history shows that before the era of Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, the sign of truth was almost always attached to the messenger himself, rather than to the guidance he delivered. Miracles served primarily as proof of the person's prophethood, while the teachings themselves tended to be concise and practical. These forms of guidance generally did not require deep intellectual examination. They were presented as clear commands and prohibitions, meant to be obeyed rather than conceptually analyzed. For example, the revelation given to Prophet Moses, peace be upon him, was summarized in the Ten Commandments, a moral framework that was firm, normative, and straightforward. This situation made communities highly dependent on the physical presence of the messenger. As long as he was alive, the sign of truth remained visible and undeniable. But once the messenger passed away, the sign itself disappeared. What remained for later generations were teachings in the form of rules and prohibitions, while the visual proof of prophethood could no longer be experienced. Yet guidance is meant to endure, while every messenger is bound by time. This reveals another fundamental limitation of miracles that are tied to the person of the messenger rather than to the guidance itself, a condition that may appear as an honor but ultimately leaves a challenge for future generations. This situation stands in sharp contrast to what we find with Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. Scholars widely agree that his greatest miracle was not attached to his person, but to the revelation he delivered, the Qur'an. The Qur'an does not present itself merely as a list of commands and prohibitions, but as a form of guidance that requires intellectual engagement. It possesses a complex structure, multiple layers of meaning, and invites deep reflection. Within it, we also find discussions of nature, life, and various phenomena that later became subjects of scientific inquiry. Many verses in the Quran explicitly emphasize the use of reason, encouraging human beings to think, reflect, and contemplate. This marks a clear distinction from the primary character of guidance given to earlier messengers. Nevertheless, Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him himself, did possess personal signs of truth that could only be witnessed by those of his time. Among them were his title Al-Amin, the trustworthy, his exemplary character, truthful speech, and moral integrity acknowledged even by his opponents. As for the signs of truth within the Quran itself, they remain accessible across generations. Many of them have been examined and highlighted by modern scientists and thinkers. Not a few of these individuals embraced Islam after discovering connections between Quranic verses and the fields of knowledge they studied, such as Maurice Bucaille, Geoffrey Lang, Tathagata Tajason, and many others. This demonstrates that the signs of truth of the Quran are not confined to a single era or community, but remain open to anyone who is willing to engage their reason. Because the sign of truth was embedded directly in the revelation, the Qur'an, anyone of sound reason, from the time it was revealed until today, who was willing to examine it, can witness that sign of truth, even though the messenger himself is no longer present. Through this process of reflection and examination, human beings are able to distinguish between what is truly divine revelation and what is not. This rational testimony becomes the foundation of belief for sincere seekers of truth, not inherited through tradition, but grounded in understanding. In this way, the community is no longer dependent on the physical presence of the messenger. The revelation itself is able to proclaim its own truth, and because this guidance is enduring, open, and testable, there is no longer a need for any messenger after him. It is therefore entirely reasonable that Prophet Muhammad is the final prophet and messenger. After him, there is no further prophethood, and any new claim to prophethood lacks a valid foundation. History also bears witness to the consequences of this profound transition. After the era of Prophet Muhammad, the development of civilization grounded in human reason accelerated at an extraordinary pace. At one point, the Muslim world itself led global civilization and became a center of knowledge and learning. For this reason, the era of Prophet Muhammad can be seen as marking the dawn of a new chapter in human history, a civilization built upon reason and intellectual responsibility. And in harmony with that shift, God revealed guidance that speaks directly to the human mind.